Welcome back, everybody, to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be doing some more fantasy football focused content. We're going to be looking at my top 20 quarterbacks, and I've just officially done all of my rankings for fantasy football, although, there's still a couple months left until the season actually starts, so this is obviously subject to change, and there's going to be some things that I'm going to change around. But first, I want to go through some of my honorable mentions down here at the bottom. We're going to start down with number 20. Obviously, you got to talk about Matthew Stafford here. I don't know why his picture won't even show up. Matthew Stafford, absolute beast. I think with Davante Adams in there, I could really move him up. The fact that he's just a pocket passing quarterback, though, and he did not have the best season last year, he was injured to start the year off, it looks like, and yeah, just really had kind of a subpar year. I know Cooper Kupp dealt with his stuff and all of that, but at the same time, him having Davante Adams and Puka out there, it's going to be a very nice combination. So I like Matthew Stafford as an honorable mention, but he just did not make my top 20 list. And then Tua Tagovailoa down here too. I'm definitely going to move Trevor Lawrence up. There's a couple of guys that I got to kind of move around here, but Trevor Lawrence could possibly be poised for a dark horse MVP season. I know he struggled last year, and I know he had injuries, but with Travis Hunter out there and Brian Thomas Jr., I just think he's going to play awesome. Although I would watch out drafting him because, the Jaguars, they're not the best run organization, not the best team in the NFL, and they still have a lot to work on. And then one of my favorite honorable mentions would definitely be down here with Michael Penix Jr. Sam Darnold, also a nice option. Jackson Dart, if you're looking for a flyer in the late rounds. Who knows, maybe even Jalen Milroe will end up getting some starts throughout the season, although I wouldn't really touch him personally. But Michael Penix Jr., man, just look at the way he played in the last few games last year. I know he threw a couple of picks, but I think he is going to be awesome, especially when it comes to throwing Drake London's way. And I think they already have a pretty decent connection, number 9 to number 5. So there you go, 9 to 5. It's just meant to be. I feel like that's going to be a steady connection. And I feel like Michael Penix, out of any of these honorable mentions, has the highest upside. So who knows, if he's sitting there, maybe on waivers, I feel like you'll still get him pretty late round. I would definitely gun for Michael Penix Jr. He's awesome. He's a great option. And yeah, so let's get into my top 20, starting with the rookie Cam Ward. Looks like he's got his picture on there and everything now. Obviously, I'm not really gunning for Cam Ward too much. I mean, since he's number 1 overall pick, I would say he's worth sending a flyer on out of any of these guys, in comparison to Jackson Dart and, Jalen Milroe and Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward is definitely worth taking a flyer on, and if he's sitting in there in the later rounds, I would grab him up, but I'm not too high on him, which is why I have him ranked down here at number 20, although I think his connection with Xavier Restrepo is also something to look at in fantasy. If we're talking about receivers, watch out for Xavier Restrepo, because they have a very nice, solid connection. Jordan Love, my fantasy quarterback from last year in one of my leagues, and man, he kind of let me down, especially with the last few games, when I really needed him most. I do expect more out of him this year. You got Matthew Golden in there now. It's a new year, and although at the same time, not too high on him. Same as a couple of these guys lower down here. I'm not too high on them. But at the same time, he's not a bad option. This is my number 19th ranked quarterback. Then we get on to CJ Stroud, and I know he had a bit of a sophomore slump, but now you get back into it, and I absolutely love the Jaden Higgins pick. I would totally pick him up. I know you have Nico Collins out there already, but Higgins is going to be playing that Tank Dell role since Tank Dell's not going to be able to play, and I think Stroud is going to be able to hit him nicely. They go out, and they also got Nick Chubb in the backfield, so I feel like the Texans have a good year, and I feel like Stroud's going to definitely have a comeback, but he definitely stunk it up. I mean, if we're going from last year's stats, I would pick Jordan Love over CJ Stroud at this point, because he just really struggled, and he was just mid, to be honest. If there's one word to describe him, it would be mid. But like I said, junior year, I think CJ Stroud's going to have a very nice season, and I'm very excited to see what he has in store. Then we get on to J.J. McCarthy, and a lot of people may question this, but J.J. McCarthy is one of my major, kind of sleeper options in the draft. Say he ends up falling late. I wouldn't personally pick him. I have a couple of guys ranked a little bit higher than him that I am, higher on and I like a lot better. But J.J. McCarthy, I mean, you take Sam Darnold, who he was serving as the 49ers backup quarterback the year prior to last. And then you take him, he comes to Minnesota, and he has an absolutely amazing season. Gets that massive contract over to play for the Seattle Seahawks. I think you can expect a decent amount of what Sam Darnold gave you, not as much as he gave you, but a decent amount of that same production from J.J. McCarthy. He's got Justin Jefferson to throw to. I know he wasn't stellar at Michigan, but I feel like he is poised, and he's already had that season to sit and learn behind Sam Darnold. I think he is absolutely poised for a very nice season. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Like, he has amazing weapons, and then he has Aaron Jones at running back, Jordan Mason's back there, so I really do expect a decent amount out of J.J. McCarthy, which is what makes him my, 2019, 18, 17th ranked quarterback. As we get onto a guy who I am a lot higher on, and he may actually end up going up my list, Drake May. Number 16 on my list, right? Yeah, number 16, if I can count. Yes, Drake May. Man, with Stephon Diggs in that offense, I feel like Drake May is poised for a really nice year. You know, that defense is absolutely incredible. They go out and they draft Travion Henderson, and they also have, what's his name out there? The player from Washington State, who I'm totally blanking on his name now, but he's going to be playing like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for them, and they also have him out there, and he's a solid player. But he's entering his second season. You know, you got Mike Vrabel as the new head coach. And that's why I have Drake May. You know, he's going up. I would move him up a little bit more. I have a couple of these guys ranked a bit higher than him. But for now, he's my number 16th ranked quarterback. And like I said, I like Stephon Diggs in that offense as well with him. Travion Henderson in the backfield. And, you know, who knows what type of... I mean, I feel like the sky's the limit for Drake May. So, like I said, probably going to end up moving him up my list. But for now, he's number 16. So we get to Dak Prescott, and I know Dak Prescott, you know, you don't expect a crazy amount out of him, but, you know, they went out and got George Pickens in that offense. And now you have George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Dak can throw to. I know he struggled with that massive injury last year, but, you know, at the same time, he's Dak Prescott. He's going to be somewhat consistent. The season prior to last one, he had a very good season. I want to say he was a QB3, QB4 type in fantasy. So, yeah, I would totally pick him up in the later rounds, but it really just depends on how he comes back from that shoulder injury. So, wait, was it a shoulder injury? He just had an injury, but can't remember specifically what it was. What was a shoulder? But at the same time, he's got CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, George Pickens to throw to. I feel like he's going to be a nice option. So he's my QB 15. Jared Goff, and honestly, I had to look at Jared Goff's stats, and then I was like, okay, yeah, he's moving up my list. 44-point game, 24-point game, 27-27. There's a 38 in there, 20, 27, 29. Like, Jared Goff was actually a beast last year. I remember that one game against the Texans, right? Didn't he pop up? Or was that the game where he threw a bunch of picks? Yeah, that was the game where he threw a bunch of picks. 5 picks thrown in that game. Never mind. But it was the game against Buffalo. He threw 5 touchdowns. So, like, Jared Goff actually a surprisingly good option. I don't know how much I trust the Lions this year. I know I'm not actually as high on them. I think they still have a decent amount of talent, but I just think losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn going to Chicago and New York, you know, that's just, who knows what's in store for Jared Goff after that. But Dan Campbell's a great coach, so I see another decent season out of Jared Goff. I'm ranked as my QB 14, I believe. Yep. And then Justin Fields, one of my favorite options this year, QB 13, and he could end up being a player that moves up the list too. I feel like he deserved more of a chance to start in Pittsburgh last year. At the same time, he's a monster, you know. Even if he doesn't have the best season passing, he's going to rush the shit out of the football. And I think Garrett Wilson's in for an amazing season, because when he was playing with DJ Moore, he targeted him left and right, and to the point where he wasn't really targeting other receivers. So I would watch out for other players on the Jets if you're looking for fantasy value. But Garrett Wilson, his wide receiver 1, definitely has good upside. So I like him and Justin Fields for that. And Justin Fields, at the same time, is one of my favorite players in the NFL, and I think he's really going to get a chance to start. We'll see how he ends up doing. I've always been a Justin Fields defender. I feel like he was really nice, and Pittsburgh kind of did him wrong. I thought they should bring him back for another season, run it back with him or Russ. But yeah, that's why he's my QB 13. And yeah, I think so. I don't know. I might be losing track of the rankings, but yeah, I like Justin Fields a lot this year. And I know the Jets' offense isn't anything crazy, but you still got Garrett Wilson, and you still have Breece Hall, who could be in store for a all-right season. But yeah, I do like Justin Fields a decent amount. But then we get to the guy who took his job in Chicago, Caleb Williams, and I think he had a bit of a subpar rookie season. That was due to a couple of different factors. But now you have head coach Ben Johnson in there. He's going to look to get a lot of stuff going. They drafted Luther Burden. Now you have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden. They drafted Colston Loveland. They got Cole Kmet. They have absolute weapons out for him, out for Caleb Williams out there. And he also has rushing ability. So I feel like he's really poised for a great season, making him my about QB 12, I want to say, this class. And, or this year. Sorry, I'm still used to draft talk at this point. But yes, I really do like Caleb Williams for the season. I think his sophomore year is going to be something really special. And you can't just look at those stats from last year and just be like, oh, damn, he's all right, but inconsistent. I feel like he showed a lot of, promise and potential. So I like Caleb Williams a lot for next season. Then we get to Justin Herbert, who's another one of my favorite players in the NFL. This guy's named Justin. He's entering his 6th NFL season, and at the same time, he's got Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris in that backfield. I like a lot. Man, that's just... And then he's still throwing a Lab McConkey in the guys, so I like Justin Herbert. I don't have too much to say about him, but at the same time, he's an absolute beast and a decent player for fantasy as well. I feel like this is going to be one of his better fantasy seasons. Although he may be a player that drops down the ranks, he doesn't have too much rushing ability. Although he's still a decent player. So I like Justin Herbert for that reason. Kyler Murray, another one of the players I had in another league last year and kind of disappointed me. I think with those upgrades they went out and made to that defense, I feel like Kyler doesn't even have to do too much. And this Cardinals team is possibly a playoff contender. At the same time, Marvin Harrison, sophomore season, I feel like he's going to break out. Trey McBride's out there. And then, you have James Conner and Trey Benson in the backfield. I think Kyler Murray's going to have a decent season. I don't think he's going to have what you basically expect from him. But he's another guy I could see me ending up moving down the ranks a little bit for maybe a player like Caleb Williams, who knows, Justin Fields. And then we get to Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy, surprisingly consistent last year. He had only a couple of down games, a 2-pointer and a 3-pointer here. But outside of that, he had some pretty good weeks at 27, 25, 23, 22, and 32 right there. But, yeah, Brock Purdy's just going to be a method of consistency. And I feel like, they went out and lost a lot of defensive players, which is why I'm kind of lower on him this year. And, at the same time, he can't really run the ball. But he's a great pocket passer, and I really love him this year for fantasy-wise. I feel like people won't even realize, but you'll be getting really good value on him in maybe a mid-round, as like a mid-round pick. But yeah, I like Purdy a bit better than a couple of these guys. But at the same time, due to losing so many key defensive players and stuff, and that's going to kind of rock that San Fran team a little bit, I would definitely think about bumping him down the ranks a little bit for some of these higher rushing threats as we get to the next guy. And we're getting to some of my top players. Bo Nix, one of my top guys right here. And, I mean, all you got to talk about is his rookie season last year. He popped off. He was a guy I want to say I picked up in waivers, and he absolutely dominated a whole lot of great games. Decently consistent. He only had, one dud? Yeah, one really bad dud, like an 8-point and a 6-point here, and then there's a 10-point somewhere, I want to say, or 12. Yeah, Bo Nix still an absolute beast, and I will pick him up for next season, thinking that he's going to be, only a better version of himself. As we get on to Baker Mayfield, who we just need to talk about the weapons that are in Tampa Bay right now. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, and Tez Johnson, and Jalen McMillan. Those are 5 wide receivers that are all special in their own way and all have really great traits. And dynamic skill sets. Baker Mayfield is in for a possible MVP season, and I could see the Bucs making a decent playoff run. It depends also on how their defense performs, but that offense is absolutely insane. And Baker Mayfield was one of the top quarterbacks in fantasy last year, and literally was drafted in such a late round too. That's why you can pick some of these late round guys, like who knows, like a Sam Darnold, maybe even Aaron Rodgers ends up having a decent season. Tyler Shook, not Deshaun Watson, definitely. But yeah, you never know. One of these guys could end up totally like a Drake May. I could see him popping off. Justin Fields, you never know. But yeah, Baker Mayfield picked so late last year, but he's still such a method of consistency. And I've been really glad to see his career resurge. And yeah, he's an absolute beast. I think he's going to pop off in fantasy again, especially with those weapons. I mean, I feel like you can't go wrong with those. Patrick Mahomes just up here. He's Patrick Mahomes. He's going to do his thing. He wasn't anything crazy last year, but at the same time, he's going to be a decently consistent quarterback when it comes to fantasy. Another player that I might end up moving down the ranks, I just moved him up mostly because ESPN had him ranked pretty high. But at the same time, not a big fan of Mahomes. And but at the same time, I'll take into account his skill set and how he's been decent in so many years, especially that MVP season. He's so good in fantasy. So Mahomes up here in my top 6 for that reason. And then Joe Burrow, one of the guys who's going to end up going decently early. I want to say like 3rd, 4th round. Popped off last season. Him and Jamar Chase had an amazing connection. I mean, look, he had a 37, 40-point game in there. I love Joe Burrow for this upcoming season, although he could take a bit of a step back. Still absolutely love Joe Burrow. He's him. And I think the Bengals need to really prove a lot this year. Try and make it back to maybe the Super Bowl. Definitely make it to the playoffs. So Joe Burrow is going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders, but at the same time, I really love him for fantasy-wise. Him and Jamar Chase are just such a great duo. Then we get to my number 4 ranked quarterback. It's Jaylen Herz, my guy. I love the Eagles. They're going to continue to hit that tush push. It didn't get banned. So, and yeah, he's just a method of consistency. He's going to kind of, steal those rushing plays from Saquon. He's going to vulture a couple of touchdowns throughout the season. And in general, if he just continues to work on the passing game too, I feel like he's such a great option for fantasy. So that's why I have him ranked so high. But him and Joe Burrow are almost interchangeable. In fact, I would even think about putting Burrow above him. But based off the rushing ability, I have Jaylen a bit higher. Rushing quarterbacks just do so good in fantasy. And then we get to Jaden Daniels, who could end up seeing a sophomore slump. But look at his stats from last year. So many 20-point games, multiple 30-point games in here. He was absolutely awesome as a rookie. Look, almost 2 30-point games right here early in the season. Such great value in late rounds too. Last year, this year he's going to end up getting drafted a whole lot earlier. But I still really like Jaden Daniels, and they did add Deebo Samuel. We'll see what he ends up doing in that offense. And then Laramie Tunsil out there as well. So I really do like Jaden Daniels a lot. He's going to go pretty high, but he may be worth it based off his ADP. We will see. But yeah, like him as QB3 of this class. And then Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Damn, wait. Is that correct? No. I meant to put, I was going to say. Wait. Okay. I can't change it now. But Josh Allen is my QB1 and Lamar is QB2. But I don't know why it ended up changing that. Allen is just the best quarterback in fantasy football. Every single year he's the best. But second's going to be Lamar. Lamar, he's going to continue to pop off. He's going to do his thing that he does every season. There's not too much that I can say about Lamar Jackson besides that he's an absolute beast. And he has the rushing ability. So he's probably in for another nice season. He had a 35 in here, a 37. And I would even think about picking a player like Jaden Daniels over Lamar Jackson at this point. Because I like Jaden Daniels' upside a little bit more. I feel like he has that Josh Allen almost upside. Could be the future fantasy QB1 based off the rushing and the passing ability. But yeah, I still like Lamar Jackson. There's not too much that you can say about him. But at the same time, he's going to pop off. He's probably going to have another good year. And that Ravens defense is absolutely amazing. So they should be in for a playoff run. This is really his chance to prove himself. So I like him as QB2. And then Josh Allen, obviously you get to him, he's QB1. I had to go back into the stats and look at it again. 32. Look, he had that 53-point game where he had 6 total touchdowns, 340 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 82 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Like, that's fucking insane. And then the next week, 42-point game. Josh Allen was, and most likely will be for maybe the next decade or so, the best quarterback for fantasy football. If you're looking for your top guy, it's going to be Josh Allen no matter what. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that. But yeah, like I said, the list is interchangeable. A couple of these options like Joe Burrow and Jaylen Herz and Mahomes might go down the list a little bit. I like Baker a little better. Same thing, Justin Fields might go up the list. Caleb Williams, I could see. Herbert, Murray, Purdy all dropping down. But at the same time, this is my list for the time being. Rodgers, now that he's signed with Pittsburgh, definitely going to move him up a little bit. Tua, move down a little bit. Don't like Tua too much for fantasy-wise. But at the same time, this is my list for the time being. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. And I will see you all in the next video where we may be doing some more UCLA Dynasty. Who knows, we're getting closer and closer to College Football 26 and Madden 26 season. But at the same time, we got to focus on some fantasy football as well, which is coming up in the coming months. So, but yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.